do what I wanna, innovate what I'm gonna. You can hate all you wanna, but you're still in your pajama. Now I ain't a prima donna, but I built what I wanna. You can say my vision's wrong, the tune of my song. Broke my thumb, banging to my own drum. Broke my thumb, banging to my own drum. Broke my thumb, banging to my own drum. Who in a clapping, boots I am a strapping, a click click clacking. Hurrah! Bootstrapping in America. Yeah, bootstrapping in America.
Belinda Chang, who's a sommelier based out of Chicago, Skyping in. Hello there. Hi. We chose to do rosé champagne. Rosé is like all the rage now, but we want you to drink good rosé.
Live from Chicago with my Kentucky Derby hat. Hey everyone, how are you? I thought everybody should give an answer to rosé champagne is.
I'm Chris, and it is Instagram gold.
We brought food, you've got wine in your hands already, and we're gonna go through the whole thing. What's really fun about champagne and rosé champagne is that you have all of these flavors in a glass. So if you're gonna go on some kind of juice diet or liquid only, I would argue that champagne is the way to go. We did it correctly. Rosé season doesn't have any sort of time, it's all the time. Are you gonna have it for breakfast tomorrow, as suggested?
If you insist. I feel like it would be rude to say no.
Yeah. If anybody wants to come to dinner, I'll have all this ready.
Christy, we're back. Bootstrapping in America.
Welcome to Bootstrapping in America, where we interview some of the hottest entrepreneurs in Chicago and beyond. Our guest today is a James Beard Award winner. She ran the wine programs and often the whole front of house at some of the nation's legendary dining rooms. Charlie Trotters in Chicago, San Francisco's Fifth Floor, The Modern in New York City, and recently Maple and Ash, a 13,000 square foot Chicago steakhouse with 182 employees. Please welcome Belinda Chang. Yay!
All right,
Thanks
you
for
got
coming
game.
on.
I feel welcome.
You got game. I could tell just from those credentials. You got game.
Well, thank you.
I
Thank
can
you.
tell this is going to be fun.
And
Everything's
great
lit
capacity.
up and colorful and ready to go. Oh my gosh. So I have so many questions, but I'm going to start out with a little bit around like where you grew up
Sure.
and a little bit around your background.
Well, I'm a local gal, so I went to school in Palatine, Illinois, northwest of the city, from third grade on. And then I went to the Illinois Mathematics and Science Academy for the last 3 years of high school. And my parents are still out there, so I'm still out and yay, Palatine, once a week. Love the
We have some
farmers
viewers out
market.
there.
I love the train station. I'm into it all. And then I went to school in Houston, which is where this whole thing kind of started, this bug, this restaurant, food, and wine bug that, manifested itself in what I'm doing now and what I've been doing for the last 20 years.
Yeah. So talk about that because I saw that you had a biochemistry degree.
Right.
So walk me through sort of that first step into the wine and restaurant, hospitality industry.
So my dad is a PhD chemist, a research chemist who worked for some large companies that everyone's heard of, Exxon, UOP and Honeywell. And so his dream, of course, was for me to follow in his footsteps. And I was happy to do that at first. And then during the course of my time at Rice University in Houston, I started dating the lead singer of the ska band. That happens when you're in college. And he had this great gig where he worked at the faculty club on campus called Cohen House. Mm-hmm. And so there you got a free meal if you lived off campus and every shift that you work. And it's where all the professors and VIP guests of the university would have lunch or dinner. We had weddings and all kinds of stuff. And I was really just into this life where I was surrounded by the best brisket, the best pecan pie, and the sickest gumbo that I'd ever had.
Check.
Right?
All the boxes.
And I'm surrounded
We're in.
by all these people that are also super obsessed with food like I am. And that turned into me becoming the head waiter there, where we would do white glove synchronized service in the president's home. And that was my first sort of touch with great wine. I mean, we were drinking great bottles of Burgundy. Well, wait, were we drinking them? I think we were serving them. We're supposed to be serving them, was how that was supposed to go.
Yeah, taste them, make sure they're not bad if they're doing a white glove service like that.
Right. That was it. I learned how to bartend there. And I was just having way too much fun to, study as much as I intended.
Made Palatine and your parents very happy.
Yeah, but there's some some chemistry involved in, seriously, when you look at not only alcohol, but the pairing, right?
Yes, absolutely. I mean,
The
I can still...
fermentation process.
That's right. I mean, I
That's
might
right.
remember a little bit of Krebs cycle, but I don't get to use that in my day-to-day. But fermentation chemistry, certainly. So I just really fell into that life, and I loved it, and I was running to get to work every single day. And then I thought, okay, maybe this is a thing. Maybe I love restaurants, and maybe that's what I want to do. So I found a kitchen to work in. I volunteered. I knocked on the back door of the fanciest restaurant in town in Houston, which at the time was called Cafe Annie. There's a chef there who's also in bar chemistry. He's a PhD. His name's Robert Del Grande. Fantastic. And knocked on the door of the kitchen and asked if I could come hang out. And they, I think, were so surprised.
I have to segue for a second. Is that where you learned how to make this beautiful drink?
This is a new drink. So
Okay.
this is a new thing called pink port. I mean, we've all had port, right? 10-year tawny port, maybe with your cheesecake at the end of the dinner at a steakhouse. But Croft is the first house, they call them port houses, to do a pink version, which is, very on trend. And I love, it's dryuary for a lot of people, but, screw that.
It lasted a week for me.
Right?
I made it through a weekend. I figured that was
do
an accomplishment.
low ABV alcohol, low alcohol cocktails for breakfast,
this
right?
is wonderful.
Isn't that fun?
Oh, I
So
love this.
It's half pink port
And
and,
the
half
flower in
tonic.
I'm doing this instead of grapefruit in the morning.
I'm telling
It's
you,
perfect.
there's some nutrition there.
Yeah,
We've got
for
some edible
sure.
flowers, so there's salad.
This is beautiful.
This is my favorite new start to any party because you just put out a beautiful spread of fruit and mint and herbs, and people can kind of make their own and infinitely Instagrammable,
Yeah, sure.
right? It's a really pretty drink, and you're doing it in my favorite glasses that are actually plastic.
Yeah,
But
very good
reusable.
looking.
They don't look plastic.
Aren't
but
they fun?
Yeah. But even in the intro video, that just the spread and the display, just absolutely beautiful. The
Yeah.
colors
Sure.
popped, and it was gorgeous.
I think we're so visual, and I love to market in a visual and communicate in a very visual way.
Right.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I always have a spread.
So I want to talk about Belinda Chang LLC, your brand new
Yes.
company. But before we get there, I want to walk through a little bit of some of those kitchens
Yes.
that you have worked, that you've worked in.
Yes.
And sort of you've worked in a number of them, and again, amazing names. But talk a little bit about sort of what you learned in some of those kitchens
Oh,
and
I love that.
some of the mentors maybe that you attached to.
So at Cafe Annie, I definitely learned what hospitality was about. So, Robert Del Grande was the chef owner and his wife, Mimi Del Grande. So let's picture red leotard, red tutu, red boots, right, in the dining room with all of Houston's royalty. And it was just really fun to watch how she would integrate herself into people's dining experience and just make it great and fun and in a really confident way, right? So maybe before that, we all thought that when you go to a fancy restaurant, you are preparing for a little bit
Sure.
of abuse from the
Sure,
maitre d' and from the sommelier who's going to look down their nose. And this was a place where food was being executed at a really world-class level, and the hospitality was also super fantastic and fun and personal. So that's what I learned there, and I got to take that forward to my next position at Charlie Trotters in Chicago. So I got
Yeah.
to come back home.
So I read that there were like 26,000 bottles of wine
Yeah.
in Charlie Trotter's cellar.
I
Like,
personally
how do
counted
you
them.
manage that? You did?
Yeah.
How do you manage that, though? Like, what does it take to manage that kind of...
Well, it was a little more
Inventory.
organic, the business model there. Being owner operated. So, there we did an inventory once a month. And, sometimes it was accurate and sometimes it wasn't. And that was fine. But, that was it was like working in Disney World for the food and wine business because there was nothing that was not possible. There was nothing that we didn't have. If somebody wanted a 3-liter double magnum bottle of 1900 Chateau Margaux, of which there are probably a very limited number left in the world, we had it. Or someone wanted to open it that night, we opened it, and we got to taste it. I'll never forget the bottle of 1847 Chateau Yquem that I talked someone into purchasing. That was like the moment. One of the moments. I remember walking downstairs so carefully down into the cellar, and it was a half bottle, 350 175 milliliters, $14,000, and just very carefully creeping back up the stairs. I mean, what would happen if I drank that?
Was that you?
Was it worth the sip?
You know what? It was amazing. You know what it is? I think a wine that's a little simpler might make you think of one color, red.
Sure.
And then when you taste something like that, it's got all of that bottle age and complexity. It's like the whole rainbow. Your mind's
Well, a
exploding.
couple more of these, I'll have the whole rainbow in my head too. Don't worry about it.
I'm
Work
ready.
with me, girl.
We got a whole
All right.
bottle out there. We're ready to rumble.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, so talking about some of those places that you worked. Okay, I seriously have a list of all the awards that you have won. So
my gosh.
Sure.
It's amazing. I'm not going to read through them all, but knowing that you won a James Beard Award, is that sort of like the pinnacle, or were there other accolades that you're just that are near and dear to your heart?
So I had a really great mentor when I was in Chicago, and this is right before I moved to New York, and I said, I just don't know what I'm doing with my life. I know that I love this food and wine thing. I love this restaurant thing. And she very smartly said, sit down and write down what your career goals are, right? Mm-hmm. Hopefully at some point someone tells you to do this. It's good to write things down or make an iPhone note.
Yeah. Sure.
So I remember very clearly, I wrote down on a blue-lined piece of Franklin Planner paper all the things I would hope to achieve in a career as a sommelier or wine director. And there were 8 things. And I moved to New York, and I checked them all off in 3 years. And I was a little lost after that. And the bottom of that list, I even put things I thought I would never get until I'd been in the business for decades, and maybe they weren't even possible. The James Beard Award was absolutely on that list. So I felt a little, thank you.
Sure.
I felt a little lost after that. That's the cool one, because that's your peers voting. It's not just the opinion of one restaurant critic or, some panel of people. It's everyone in your business voting for you. So, and I remember that year I was like, oh, I'm screwed. I mean, look at the people I'm nominated with. It's never going to happen. But now I always advise friends that get nominated. It's kind of fun to get nominated again and again. So don't try to win the first time. Get your free ticket to the red carpet.
Yeah. There you go.
For a couple years.
So you are published in so many different places too, and I mean, everywhere from the Parade, the Atlantic, Art and Auction, the Sommelier Journal, Charlie Trotter's Meat and Game. I could go on and on and on.
Yeah.
But you have all of these accomplishments. You are a great storyteller.
Thank you.
Right. And so, what was it then in your list of your narrative, in your story and accomplishments you wanted to do? What was it that made you sort of take the leap and start your own company?
I've wanted to do it for a while, but I was really too scared. So a couple years ago, I filed for the LLC, and I had a little minute between gigs, and I thought, okay, now is the moment. And I remember taking a few weeks and trying to design a logo and all this kind of thing. And I think even in that moment, I knew that I had a slightly different take on how to communicate and storytell with wine and the things that I really love to sell and work with day by day. So, so that time when I was sitting in New York a couple years ago, I wimped out, and someone called and said, hey, you're available. I want to take this job. And I took it. So this time, I think I was just off of 2.5 years as a partner at Maple and Ash, the big steakhouse in the Gold Coast. And that was a place where they had originally hired me to be the wine director, and I ended up running all operations for 2.5 years. So I was a little tired at the end of that. But I realized that what I really loved the most was, one, that I had a lot of muscles that I didn't know that I had, and I got to use all of them, tax them all the way, which is great. And I thought, gosh, I think I know how to do more things than I knew, and now I'm really ready to go out on my own and have something be 100% my vision, and to be able to work with whomever I want to and exactly who I want to.
Right.
And then, tell my story. Just my story. I think in the past I was always telling my story as it related to
somebody else's dream.
Yeah, the operation that I was involved in.
So I got to ask you, it took you a while to start your business and make that jump.
Yes.
But it took you no time to make this jump, right?
I mean, if you're going to have a pool party.
I have to imagine you went in the pool, correct?
We were in the pool.
So you took the leap. Good job
We
out
took
of you.
the leap. That's kind of a great example
Good.
of leaping.
Good.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That is cute.
That's what we do here. You give me a couple more of these. I'll put up pictures you haven't seen
You'll
yet.
find pictures.
Oh gosh, there are a lot out there too. Do I need to SEO? What
No,
needs to
I'm
happen?
good with this internet thing though. Gotta count my back pocket. pocket.
Keep it clean. Keep it clean. So one of the things, talk about sort of all the different services that you offer under your umbrella.
Yes.
And also some of the differences from, working with these other companies. What are some of the services now that you get to offer, through your vision that maybe you didn't get to do before?
Yeah. So, in the past, I was throwing a party every day and every night, right? I had a restaurant that I was operating with 15,000 square feet. So, we were throwing a party for 1,000 people and trying to make the best party, this dinner party. And so now it's really fun because I get to come up with really small and concentrated and very communicative and authentic and genuine experiences for the different wineries that I work for, caviar companies, lifestyle brands, and help them communicate. I think everyone is trying to get into our living room, right, these days. So if they want you to learn about a new tequila or a new champagne vintage, they want to do that in your living room. So I'm helping them do that and find ways to, be with you, right? So that you can live this life. I think, in traditional marketing, you were purchasing a print ad or a commercial on radio or TV. And now I think everybody really wants to feel what you want them to feel when experiencing their product. So I'm finding really creative ways to do that. And I like to throw a party all the time anyway. So now I get to do it and people pay me for that,
Right.
which is really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so if I want to throw a party, like what, I know you could spend a tremendous amount, but sort of where does it start and what's sort of the average range?
So I think what we like to do and what my team likes to say is tell us what the problem or challenge is, and we're going to give you a prescription.
So I have no friends. Where would you start? Where would I go to find my friends?
We're going to curate a little wine cellar and bar for you and start
And
inviting them over, and the friends will come.
I got it. They'll stay.
We can open the door. That's easy.
Got it.
I'll be your friend.
Getting friends is the easy part.
I'll be your friend, Tony.
Right. So even from, a law firm wanting to have a holiday party where all the associates really get to bond a bit and have a little team spirit. So we put that onto a bus. We called it a holiday chariot. And we asked 5 of our favorite chefs in Chicago to come up with 20-minute moments that were insider and exclusive and off the menu. So that turned into something super fun where we had a different spirit or a different champagne in each leg of the ride, and then did things like go to a bakery that was opened just for us and have the baker bake this special panettone bread just for us. So everybody felt like such a rock star. They felt loved by their company. They felt loved by their peers. And it was just a fun way and a different way to have a party.
So
and
a
an
lot
experience.
of these a lot larger, although I saw like in the opening video, right?
Yeah.
There's an education aspect to some of the stuff that you do. And are there personal dinner parties if you got like 10 people? Or is anything too small?
No, nothing is too small. We call my apartment an atelier. It's a creative spot, we speak French sometimes. And so I have a table for 16. So I'll oftentimes host, we did one called Women, Wine, and Whiteboard just last week, which was great fun. 16 women entrepreneurs that had various challenges that wanted to help other people solve their challenges. Someone had told me, Belinda, it's great that you're doing this business, but, I think you need to hang out with more people that are entrepreneurs because, that's how you can get some of your issues out there and get people's ideas and people's solutions in a smart way. So we did that and it was great. So everybody wrote on a whiteboard kind of the current challenge on their mind, and we tasted 4 rosés, and then we went about solving
everything gets solving
the
rosé.
problems.
Yeah, sure.
We're doing wine for good. So things like
awesome.
that, and that's just a small little party that I think would be great for a lot of people, and maybe we get to solve the world's problems.
I love that. I do. I love that. So I'm going to run through really quickly sort of some of the myths around, and I'm curious what side of the fence you sit on
ready.
with this. So, red wine with red meat and white wine with fish.
I think that was invented a long time ago to just make it easy so you could have a thumbnail. But these days, all of our chefs and restaurants are cooking with global flavors and with a lot more complexity. So I always look to the sauce right? So you can have beef with red wine sauce. Is that a red wine dish? Absolutely. But what if you have veal with like a butter and lemon sauce? That's a white wine sauce. So one chef told me actually just last week that he sees that all in color. Like if you envision that the dish is a more reddish dish in terms of the coloring of the dish, it's a red wine.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can break all those rules these days. I was at a steakhouse and we were pouring Chardonnay with grilled steaks. It was
Okay.
fantastic because you had a little smoky, charry thing going on in the wine because they use smoky, charry barrels
Got
to
it.
make that wine. So it was a nice sort of echoing of the flavors.
Sure. Stem or no stem on your wine glass?
All right, I hate stemless glasses. I'm just going to tell you, and I'll tell you why, because I've hired a lot of people to polish those glasses over the years, and I don't want your fingerprints. That's actually my biggest pet peeve, and I want to do a free class for everyone in Hollywood. You know, you see all the celebrities, and they always
Right.
had their hands on the glasses like that, and I'm like, oh, fingerprints.
Right. I always thought it warmed it. I thought it was from the.
It also warms
Okay.
it, which is fine. I mean, if that's what you're really trying to do, I think they just think it looks chic like this. But no, like
There
this,
you go.
pinky in or out, whatever you prefer.
Yeah.
But always hold by the stem.
So you said warm. So when you look at like warm reds
Yeah.
and white chilled,
Yes.
what is?
I
what
like
is your take?
everything right at cellar temperature, you know, which traditionally was chateau temperature, I guess. All chateaus were about 55 degrees Fahrenheit. So I love a wine with a little bit of chill because it shows that it's been properly stored, right? If it's been stored at a very warm temperature over time, that can help it to break down, and you don't want that. So, you know, you can have the red wine go into your glass at 55 degrees, and it's going to warm as you play with it and as you sip it. And
Would you
that's a fun evolution, too.
Would you shun me if I put ice in my red wine?
No, you should do whatever you want. I love it. I love that.
I might.
I, just so you know, I only do it at home.
Good.
I've done it. But I think, you know, because a lot of restaurants and a lot of places serve the reds a little too warm, and they're much more delicious because, you know, here's a little chemistry. Here, I'm getting it in.
Yeah.
So, you know, it volatilizes the alcohol, the warmth. So you don't want that. You know, you don't want to just taste and smell the alcohol. You want to taste all those beautiful flavors and smell all those beautiful aromas when the wine's a little cooler.
I was produced with Gallo Burgundy. My
There you go.
grandfather was
A little
Gallo.
Hardy Burgundy.
Yeah, Hardy
Yeah, the
Burgundy. That's right.
jug.
That's right. So my
Yep.
first foray into wine was stealing some of his. So,
Yeah.
so I started down there and worked my way up.
I kind of want to try that again. It's still available.
It's still available. Gallon jugs.
I had a Behringer White Zinfandel last week. I was
Well, there
just
you go.
curious.
There you
I
go.
mean, you know, $3.99.
There you go. That's
Ice
awesome.
cube and a little champagne float would have probably
Hey, there you go. Oh my God,
made
I
it
love
better
that.
for me.
Yeah. So I wanna quickly throw in two little other ones. I know we're over on time.
Yeah.
What would you say is one of your biggest challenges in getting your business off the ground? I think because entrepreneurs appreciate to sort of hear,
Yeah.
you know, the big tackle.
I think time management and learning how to sell and communicate exactly what you're doing. I think people love a menu, and I think when you don't know exactly what it is you want to do and what you want to sell, you're not only confused, everyone else is also confused. So I think it was like crystallizing the vision. But for me, you know, that was a little challenging because I didn't want to feel limited. I'm like, you know, I would do anything you want me to do as long as it's fun. I don't want to tell you that all I do is this and it costs this. But, you know, that's been kind of the big challenge for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if somebody wants to actually check you out
Yeah.
and maybe throw a party,
Yes.
How do they hit you up?
yeah.
All kinds of ways. So www.belindachang.com. You can also slip into my DMs at Belinda_Chicago. And I also have a site called preprompoolpicnic.com where you can see all of us jumping into the pool and some of the national events that we do.
Cool.
That is awesome. Well, I want to wish you the best of luck
Thank
and thank you
you.
again for bringing this in. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. We'll be back in 90 seconds. We got Liz and myself coming up after this. We'll be back in 90 seconds with T Street Live.